Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living, and I'm here with Jerry Czarnecki.
Hi, how are
Jerry. Jerry is the executive director of the Portage Chamber of Commerce.
That's correct. Just started in January.
You did?
Yeah.
Listen to you.
It's the current stop on my adventure through life, I guess you'd say.
I like that attitude. That's wonderful.
Well, I love what I do.
What made you decide to do this?
Since we moved, my wife and I moved to the Northwest Indiana area about 4 years ago, and every organization that I've been part of has been a part of the Portage Chamber, and it really was our introduction to the community. And so that's when the job came open. I kind of looked at my wife and I said, I'm going to apply for it. I love what I'm currently doing, but if I don't, whoever takes it probably will be there longer than I want to, my working career that I have left. So I went and applied, and I was fortunate, and they said yes, and I'm having an absolute blast. So I think everybody else is too, but I can only tell you from my perspective.
Well, in some ways, it probably is a good thing to have somebody with a new approach, a new curiosity about, not just another person who's been in that kind of business moving in.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been in a lot of situations where, you wouldn't think someone with my background would be there. I went to, from day one, I always wanted to be an educator. I wanted to teach. So I went to college, did that. I taught almost 30 years in public education in the state of Michigan.
What did you
Loved
teach?
it. I taught math and science. I helped develop a program that helped students get back on track for graduation if they were behind. Helped start our district's alternative high school. And through all that work, I was fortunate. I was one of the finalists for the 2011 Michigan Teacher of the Year. So that was a cool process. I was in the final three. I'd like to tell people I must have been number two. That's, why would I be third? It's my story. I get to tell it. They only tell you who wins. So that was a cool process. Loved teaching, loved it. But our kids were growing, and I had kind of thought, am I always going to be a teacher? Is that it for me? And I was fine with it if that was. So I started dabbling in some different things.
Curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity. They say sometimes curiosity kills the cat. So I better be careful here. Keep going along. I don't know how many lives I got left. So I dabbled in being an adjunct professor, because that's kind of the next step. You leave the classroom, you become a professor. And I loved it, but it just wasn't different. It was the same thing.
I got it.
And so I threw my hat in the ring to be an economic development director for a small community in Michigan. Only about 8,500 residents.
Which one is this?
It's Hastings, Michigan. It's in southwest Michigan, right between Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. Beautiful community. It's right near where we lived. And so I threw my hat in the ring, because I looked at what they were looking for skills, said I have those skills. I use those skills in the classroom all the time, but does it translate to this? So it was funny. I sat down for the interview, and they started the interview out with saying, because I asked them, how many people are you interviewing? They said 6. 5 who have the qualifications for this job, and then you, because we're curious why someone with your background would want this job.
Oh,
so I'm like,
sweet.
Yeah. And I was always a firm believer, that I felt if I could get in front of somebody, people could see my passion and they would at least consider me. And so I really struggled during that stretch, because that was back when you sent everything in electronically, through Indeed or whatever, and they look for keywords, and I was getting tossed out. Even for positions, I was kind of like, I check every box, But anyway, so I got to sit down in front of them. They cut it. They cut the first round of interviews. Second round of interview was 2 people, one person out of that group and me. And so they brought me to a bigger group. The mayor was there, city council members, all that kind of stuff, and they offered me the job. And so I looked at it. I said, well, okay. So I started the job in February. So I had to leave the school year in the middle of the year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was a little bit, that's not normal.
It's dicey.
Yeah. And I kind of went to the superintendent and said, I told him I was looking for other jobs, not because I wanted to leave, but I explained this to him, and I promised him I would not leave to go to another school district, to go do another thing that's similar. It was going to be something that was outside of education, if it ever came to. But I said the problem with that is they're not on a school schedule. So if somebody wants to hire me now, if I tell them I got to wait till June, they might say no. And he said, well, we'll work with you. We understand. So it was funny. So it was February. So Friday, February 24th was my last day of school. We had a assembly. It was the end of Spirit Week for the winter Spirit Week, and they called me out in the middle in front of all the students, to say this is Mr. Czarnecki's last day. I walked out to a standing ovation, which was kind of cool. Went home, had my weekend, got up on Monday, the February 27th, and I went to my driveway. Instead of turning right to go to school, I turned to left and went to my new job. Started my new job with the city of Hastings. Unbelievable,
And then how did you get from Hastings?
Well, I spent about 4.5 years at Hastings, but while I was there, I was in 5 different positions. So I started as the economic development director, and then I became their director of finance, clerk, treasurer, ran their election.
Education.
So I'm learning all this cool stuff, and then once I got into that director of finance position, clerk, treasurer, the current city manager announced he was going to retire in 6 months. And so the mayor and the city council said, well, could we interview you for the position? It would save us doing the head hunting and all that money, and just see if you might even fit. And so I said, okay. So they did an interview with me in front of the mayor and the city council, and they voted, I think it was 5-3 to say yes, and I said, okay, I'll do it. So they created a position called the deputy city manager so I could learn the position. So I hired my replacement, and while I was there, I actually filled the role of the director of public works because there was an opening for a while. So I ran like the wastewater treatment plant, the parks, the streets, the clean water, all that kind of, so it was a great, so then I sat down and I spent about a year as the city manager. I started January of 2020. So we know what happened in March of 2020. And so it was an interesting scenario because I didn't really have any mentors through that. So even the city managers who have been doing it for 30 years, everybody was scrambling to how do you manage, that initial hit of COVID. So, but was able to, I worked with them. I left there in May of 2021,
And where did you go?
I ended up coming to Northwest Indiana. So I walked away from that. I was that job. While I loved it, it was one of the coolest jobs I've ever had to be on that side of the curtain. And I used to joke with my kids and say, "You guys played that computer game Sim City growing up." I said, "I get to do it for real." I said, "The only difference is when things aren't working, you can't wipe it out and start from scratch again. You got to deal with what you have." So by the time we got to 2021, I'm just like, I love this job, but it wore me out getting through that initial throes of COVID, so I said, I just got to look for something different. And at that time, our daughter and son-in-law, who she met when they both went to the University of Notre Dame, got married and they moved to LaPorte, Indiana. So we said, you know what? They're living there. Our son is a musical theater performance person whose goals were New York City. I said, I'm going to still look for jobs here in Michigan, but let's look for jobs in Northwest Indiana as well, to be by them. Then our family unit is together. And I got offered a job at Neighbors Educational Opportunities, New Vistas, which is located in Portage. They do adult education and alternative high school. So I thought it's kind of back into my wheelhouse a little bit. I'm moving to a new area. Let's keep something a little bit similar. And I was able to be, I was hired started as their career and college coordinator, and then moved to an assistant executive director position. But it was, education after being in the city and doing those jobs, while it felt like home, it wasn't as comfortable as it was. It's kind of like pulling out that old suit that you've had or that old dress you've had for a while. It used to fit you, but you've expanded since then, and I kind of opened up kind of the possibilities for me. So I did that for about, almost a year. But then I got an opportunity to fill a position, Family Promise of Porter County, which works with families that are facing housing challenges, and the Portage Township YMCA, both had part-time positions that were available. They kind of fit hand in hand together. So those two organizations decided to partner and offer me the position to cover both of those. So I worked basically out of the Portage Township YMCA, but managed both, that job at the Portage Township YMCA and Family Promise, and was loving it. Getting involved with doing that, helping both organizations, and then Gabriel's Horn Homeless Shelter, which is in South Haven. Their executive director left, and so I did a interim. They contracted me to help them to get to a new executive director, and they were starting a big expansion project. They had gotten some money from Porter County through the ARPA funds, and they had a certain time limit to use that, and so they asked me, gave me a 90-day contract while I was also doing the YMCA and Family Promise. And I worked for about a month, in that situation that was there with the thoughts I would help them, and then I would go back to my other two jobs. But the Gabriel's Horn Homeless Shelter felt like home to me. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed working with that. And so I decided to step away from the YMCA and Family Promise and focus on that. And so since 2017, which is when I retired, Gabriel's Horn was the first position I've been in that I've celebrated 2 birthdays.
Wow. Wow.
Plus, the fun thing about being in this new environment is just the opportunities that are here. I've got an opportunity to work with Adams Radio Group out of Valparaiso. I was a part-time news anchor and did commercials and did a little bit of DJ stuff with them. So they would call me up when they had vacations or somebody was out sick or something like that, or during fair time when everybody's busy, I would come in and do some news for a little while. Just loved it. And then last year, I applied for and got selected to be the public address announcer for the Gary South Shore Railcats.
Oh my God! Heaven!
So my break from work, fill my bucket is I go sit at the Steel Yard and I watch minor league baseball, and I'm the voice in the stadium that goes, now batting number 53. So I'm doing that again this year, covering 50 home games. So it's just Northwest.
Wait a minute. In there is the fact that you are now executive director of the chamber.
And that is now. Yep, that's what I'm doing now. Yes.
And how did that happen?
Again, it was one of those things. Well, I think the reason why, when I think back about why I thought about applying for this job is, I left my career, which was education, to become the economic development director for the city of Hastings, thinking, I probably got 10, 15 more years. I've already done almost 30, so 10 or 15 is a cakewalk, And so I thought I was going to be the economic development director, and that was what I was going to lead me to my retirement, that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of similarities between that role and what this chamber position does. So I think there's a part of me that wanted to see, did I make the right decision in that first jump? The first jump was the scary one.
Yeah.
Because I'd done everything,
right.
All been in the same thing. And, my dad had worked 30 plus years in a factory. My wife's dad had worked almost 40 years in a factory. I mean, that's what you did. You found your job. And you think about it, most people, they bounce around at the beginning and you find where you're going to be, and then that's what you do,
right.
for a long time. I guess I'm kind of backwards,
It's okay.
I mean, I was 22 years old when I walked into my first classroom. And I retired when I was 48, from
and here
teaching.
you are.
And here I am now. I'm 40. I'm 49. I've only no, I'm older than that. I'm feeling it too. But it's just, and the funny thing is I look back at everything that I've done, and people always look at it and go, wow, it's such different things, but every one of the things that I've done, they all had a common theme to it, and that is they were all positions where I'm helping to remove obstacles for other people.
Yeah.
They're just they may be in different realms, but they all have that same theme in it.
So where are they in the chamber?
Well, it's helping the community and the businesses grow.
Right.
And so that's what the chamber does. The purpose of the chamber is to promote its members and help to strengthen them so that they can continue to move forward in whatever their plans are. I can't go in and run their business for them,
Right.
but if I can do things to help to connect them, make connections with them, with whether it's another business that they can partner, or it's a, how do I help to drive customers to their doorstep, and then it's up to them to do the things. And so, like I said to everybody, I go right back to my students. I'm going to help remove the obstacles. You still have to do the work so you can pass the test, so you can graduate. And I used to have students come to me and they would say, Mr. Czarnecki, thank you for everything that you did. And I said, it's not my fault. You being successful is not my fault. We tell you as the kids are growing up, when they do things that are bad, take responsibility for them. Well, you also need to take responsibility for what you did that was good.
There you go.
I might have opened the door. I might have maybe
sparked that curiosity.
and maybe shown a little path that might have been a little bit easier for you, but you had to take the path. I couldn't do it for you. And so I think every piece that I've had has had some of that in it.
So now I have a question for you.
Sure.
From my point of view, we are in the middle. We have long left the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
And we are now in the entrepreneurial revolution.
Okay. Yeah.
And the number of entrepreneurs that close their doors in 2 years is 30%.
Yeah.
The number in 15 years is 75%.
Yep.
So the chamber has always, in my experience in this community, been really focused on larger businesses. Not the single person entrepreneurs or the two or three people.
Yeah.
And
well, I think to deal with that, I mean, every business climate needs to have, just like any environment, you have different layers that are there. And you need this entrepreneur layer in a community to help make a community thrive. Because in many cases, the entrepreneurs, the small business people are going to be the reason why people come to your community. The big businesses, you need those two. Those are your anchors. Those are the ones that bring their employees live in your community. And so I think at least from my perspective, and again, I'm talking it from my perspective, what I see with the Portage Chamber, and somebody coming in who hasn't always lived in this realm. I mean, my career has not been in chamber stuff. I see the chamber being a avenue for these entrepreneurs to make an investment in their business, because we can help promote them. Because usually what happens with small businesses and entrepreneurs, when they start out as one.
You bet.
So you gotta run your store, make your inventory if it's something you created, sell your inventory, and you gotta promote yourself. Well, your membership to a chamber now automatically connects you to a network of places where, even if it's a networking event that you go to, I think almost everyone in the area has a morning coffee and whatever you call it.
Right.
You name it. Everybody has it. Ours is called Perk Up Portage, where we give an opportunity for members to come in and share who they are and what they do. Well, I think what happens with some of the smaller businesses and the entrepreneurs that you're talking about is they feel intimidated to come to that position, because why is someone from name the big business in your community going to want to hear what I do? Well, their business may not connect with you, but they as a person or somebody they know might say, I'm looking for a fill in the blank. And they can say, I met somebody at this networking event from the chamber.
Right.
That
does.
I know them a little bit, so you trust them a little bit because you met them at something. There's a common theme of there's an investment in the chamber. So to me, the small businesses, the entrepreneurs, that kind of stuff, it's tough to look at it and go, okay, I need to put my money into my business, but it's a relatively small investment into the chamber, and then you have all these avenues to get to promote. So that would be my encouragement for that, is that, even if you're part of an area where the chamber feels like they're focusing on the big business, I think there's still a niche for those small entrepreneurs to get involved and find some value in it, but you got to look at it, what you're doing. And I always joke with a lot of our members, because I'm always bugging them to say, hey, get us some stuff. Like I'll see that they're doing a sale or something. Get us some stuff so we can promote that. Because I said, remember, you're paying us already to do this. I mean, the chamber's basically on your payroll. You give us your membership fees, make us work for you, so that we can do it. So I think that's a place where some of the small entrepreneur type people can get involved. But I know it's difficult. I understand. I mean, you want to get things rolling a little bit. But we all know it's word of mouth is where people find out about you.
They do always.
And as probably people noticed on this podcast, and if you ever met me, there's one thing that I do is words come out of my mouth. And I joke with some of our members, and I say, really, the chamber's a dating service. In the case of, I love that idea. I know what you have for a need. That's one point. But then I meet somebody who is another point that I can maybe connect you. And then I joke and I say, I get you guys together, then it's up to you. Swipe right if you like, swipe left if you don't. You guys move forward or you don't. But it's removing those obstacles.
Yeah.
Because the obstacle's there. And so the other thing, for those of you that didn't keep up with all the different hats that I wore, since I've been in Northwest Indiana, all of my time has been spent in the nonprofit world. And so with the chamber, a number of our members are nonprofit organizations.
Interesting.
And so part of the thing that I want to do coming into the chamber with the background that I have is to help to find ways to connect the nonprofits with the business world.
You bet.
Because there's a lot of people in the business world who are philanthropic and want to help out the community. But most nonprofits are of such a size that they don't have people that can do more. They're like the entrepreneurs. They're focusing on their nonprofit. It's hard for them to build the connections. They do it. Sometimes it happens by accident. You're in the right place at the right time. And I tell them, well, one of the right places to be is at a chamber event because you're just talking with someone and you might connect with somebody who can do that. So again, it's connecting that nonprofit with the business world to again strengthen all that strengthens our community.
Yes, it does.
I mean, that's the fiber of our community. I mean, I'm looking around the room here and all of your fiber art that you have going on. I mean, it's all of these little threads that are coming together to make something beautiful.
Well, and what really happens when you put threads together and you agitate them, like felt them, is they're just like people. They get a little scared and they want to hold together.
Yeah, and they connect, and they connect, and then that's what builds the fiber of your community and strengthens it, and that then translates to people see there's good things happening in your community, and they're like, I want to go find out what that is.
Yeah.
And so then people come to, and to me, it's you continue to buff the things about you that are shiny, so that people can see it, and then they'll come find out what it is. Everybody's attracted to shiny things.
Yes, they are.
Whether it's a diamond or it's a, whatever it is, it's a flash of light. People look at it and then they're attracted to it. So how do we make our community shine so that people want to be part of it?
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. No, this is a great opportunity, and I think it's awesome that you do this and really give the community a way to hear from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Because I joke with people and say, when I look from the inside out, I'm fortunate my world has not had a whole lot of turmoil. And so my perspective on the world looks very similar as what it did in my 20s. Since my wife and I got married and started having kids, that's kind of been our life. And that's how I see the world. I said, until I walk by a mirror and go, when did my dad get here? That kind of stuff. But I said, but all of it's from my perspective.
Right.
Now, I've been fortunate working with students and the variety of students that I worked with, working in all these different areas. I've had an opportunity to view the world through somebody else's lens.
Yeah.
And we don't always get the opportunity to do that. And so it's things like this where you allow people to share their perspective of the world.
Yes.
So others can look at it and go, I never thought of that. And if somebody can watch a podcast like this and just pick up one little nugget of
Thank
something
you.
that's different.
Yes.
That they kind of go, now I'm going to consider that.
Maybe I could do this.
Maybe I could do that, or at least I'm going to now start considering that in my thought process. That's like planting a little seed.
Like I'm going to try new things.
Yeah.
I'm going to, and one of the greatest ways I think when you are out in the world and you're just stuck between a rock and a hard place and you're trying to, what the heck am I going to do? Go volunteer at a nonprofit. It'll change your life.
It does.
And you never know who you're going to meet.
And you do, and you never know. And the number of people when I worked in the nonprofit world, I kind of came in and jumped in and became an employee of a nonprofit. But the number of people who are playing roles in nonprofits that started as just they volunteered one time, they came back again. Now they're on the board, or they
got hired.
They got hired, yeah. Well, and it's a great place because a lot of people, they do their career, they step out of that, and they realize I'm not ready to just sit on the couch.
Right.
And they might look for a part-time job.
Right.
And what a great place to do a part-time job is at a nonprofit because, yes, you're feeding yourself, and the needs you have to be purposeful, but then you're just amplifying that organization. And so, yes, nonprofits are a great place if you're looking to dip your toe into something or to add to, the variety of your life.
Or want to meet different people.
There are so many of them. And you can go any of the chambers, and I think almost every chamber has it. They break it down into categories of where your businesses are. Like you got automotive, you've got health and beauty. Almost every one of them has a nonprofit section that you can go and you can click on that and you can go and look at, here's the list of nonprofits that are in this chamber area. So they're obviously in that area if they're in that chamber, and start looking to see, to connect with some of those. It's because that's just, And that's the lifeblood for those nonprofits is the people that volunteer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thanks for having me on here. Hope we didn't bore them too much.
I don't think so. Okay. And we'll see you next time at Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living. Bye-bye.